the weeping lasted all night, I know that joy comes in the morning light. So I'll march on to a new song, 'cause I've been marching to that old one way too long. And I gotta move on and take new steps every day, 'cause I know there is got to be another way. And I'm brighter day, so I march on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of P.U.R.E Live. And I know I say this every week, but I mean what I say. We are in for a great show tonight. We have the Nichols with us, and we're going to talk about a topic that can be a little touchy. But before we do that, I have a sponsor. Posh women's apparel, classy, sophisticated, stylish. They have some very nice things, and I will be ordering from them, and you will see what I order in upcoming videos. And if you yourself would like to place an order, you go to www.poshwomensapparel.com, and from now until August 7th, my listeners will get free shipping and handling. Isn't that great? Isn't that exciting? I know, I'm excited. So let me introduce you to the wonderful Jeff and Calista. Nichols.
Yay! Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello, darlings. So, what are we talking about today? So the topic says, love is colorblind. Why did I call it that? Well, other than the obvious, we're talking about interracial relationships. And we're going to deal with why it's so controversial. We're going to deal with some statistics. And we're going to deal with this wonderful, beautiful relationship that the Nichols has, regardless of the controversy. So what I want to do is I want to start us off with some statistics and some facts. So the fact of the matter is, up until about 1967, it was illegal. It was absolutely illegal to have interracial relationships. Why? Because people are racist, that's why. But I think it's interesting that it was actually written into law. Isn't that amazing? So here's something that I looked up. It says that African American and white relationships, right? It says when African Americans and whites marry, there's 2.65 times more likely to be an African American husband and a white wife. In fact, 73% of all African American and white marriages have this set up. Why? I'm not really sure. And that's something to explore. And as you can see with the Nichols, that actually is the setup. But one of the things that I've noticed is that it seems to be an even bigger negative situation coming against those African American males that end up marrying the white females, as opposed to the white males marrying the African American women. I'm not really sure what that's about. But let's dig into it, shall we? First of all, why don't you introduce yourselves? Say your names and how long you've been married, please, and thank you.
I'm Jeff. This is my wife, Calista. We've been married about 15 years.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time. 15 years. How was I 15 years ago?
Oh, goodness. We don't have to do that.
That's a beautiful thing, especially since the divorce rate is so high. That you guys are still together. It's a beautiful thing. So, what are we dealing with? We have a black African American male. We have a white female. You guys have been married for 15 years. Tell me, has it been easy all 15 years?
Marriage is never easy all the time, but our marriage has never been plagued by racial issues between the two of us.
Now, that's a good distinction that you placed there between the two of you. So, where have the issues been? What kind of things have you seen? You want to answer, Jeff?
The kind of issues we've seen, most of them have been probably things that have happened in the public, you know, things that have happened around the country. You know, when something happens, you know, here recently, I guess we can use the George Floyd, you know, episode. It's like, you know, when things like that happen, for us, it normally is a educational piece where we talk amongst each other about the social injustice that is continuing to still happen, you know, and then we are communicate amongst ourselves because we also have, you know, several uh, interracial friends and stuff. And so to me, it's like if we can educate ourselves, you know, talk about what we may believe the issue is, it's easier for us to communicate. And, you know, we don't hold what is happening socially, you know, bring us down. It's a part of us. We each have a, you know, a part in it. But for us to grow, we have to communicate, you know, and we have to show empathy and be a little bit sensitive to the subject. Yep.
Yeah. So how do you do that? How are you sensitive to the subject? Exactly.
For instance, when this George Floyd stuff happened, um, I was looking at something one day and I just said, I'm going to ask my husband this because I've never talked to him about it. And I asked him, Jeff, when was the first time that you ever experienced a white person calling you the N-word? Really, and that wasn't a real comfortable question to ask, but it was one that we needed to ask. So, and so he proceeded to tell me.
Yeah.
But it's things like that. I think it's showing empathy toward things that might otherwise not be important on another given day.
Might not be important. That's interesting. So, I mean, I understand that, what's going on right now might bring it more to the forefront. So, you guys have been married for 15 years, which would land you getting married in the early 2000s. So, we're, still in more progressive ways of things. However, people, all the way up to this day still seem to have issues with interracial relationships. Has that been displayed to you in any way, shape, or form when it comes to strangers, friends, family? Have you seen people appear to be either uncomfortable or saying things out of pocket?
Well, for me, you you can tell, you could be we can go to the grocery store or something, and there might be someone, that might look at you funny, might stare at you, and just because whatever is going on in their head, it might not be acceptable to them. Very seldom have we encounter someone just being derogatory face to face. So mainly it's a look that you get behind your back. Calista had an instance where we was at a grocery store and we were together, but then I walked away to, I don't know, do something, and a lady behind her was like, I guess she thought we had too many items, for the checkout. But instead of saying anything when I was there, she waited till I walked away to say something. And I guess it burned Calista, and Calista told me on the way out. And I was like, well, why didn't you say anything, when I came back? Not that we're going to cause a scene, but, we can tackle the issue if she has something going on.
Right.
There's people that have a sense, or it might not be comfortable for them, or they may not like it for whatever reason. That's their issue. But, if you're going to voice it, then let's voice it. Let's tackle it.
Yeah. So Clarissa, did it just make you uncomfortable? Why didn't you want to address it right then?
Well, I think because I don't want to make a scene at the checkout line. Um, I am not good with on the spot argument. I really argue best after I've had a day to think about it and process it, and come back tomorrow and let's chat. Because now I have some things to say. So those on the spot things are not extraordinarily good for me. He, on the other hand, is very good at it. Um, and he does it in a loving manner so that it's not, um, well, to the average person, it may not be offensive, but to someone who is in their feelings about whatever the case may be, it could be offensive to them no matter what you say to them. So,
True.
you know, we've had um, we've had other experiences like with my family when we were first married. My grandma, um, we were sitting there and she and I were talking, and Jeff was watching some baseball because grandma loved to let the men do what they wanted with the TV, even though it was the only TV in the house. So we were watching baseball, and she said something to Jeff, and he didn't respond. And she said again, well, Jeffrey, did you hear me? And he's like, yeah, I'm just watching TV. And she said, well, what am I going to do with you? I'm just going to wrap you up and hang you in a tree. And we both about fell apart. Well, Jeff looked at me very slowly, turned his head and looked at me. And I was just like, what just happened? And, I thank God for the husband that I have, because he knew my family. I mean, it wasn't when we were very first married. So he knew my family well enough to know how he felt about her and what she had just said. And I'll let him cover
Mhm.
that. But he handled it very gracefully. And I just thank the Lord that I have a husband who is willing to handle things gracefully, as although when necessary, he can light up. I'll talk. Let me
Okay.
say.
So what's your side, Jeff?
You know, when she said it, it wasn't it wasn't like a derogatory tone. It wasn't like, it came from a place of anger. It was a joke, an insensitive joke, but, I don't think she had any ill will feeling about it. It was just, a joke. It was a bad joke, but, you know,
Mhm.
I'm in her home and I didn't, she had never shown me any uh just being hateful towards me. She was always loving, she was always kind, and I miss her dearly to this day. But, it was just a moment, you know. I would rather, let me see how I can say this. I would rather her be pure with me than to try to sneak something past me. Some people love you, and, it was just a learning situation. She, at that point, before that point, she had never did anything, said anything, or made me, tried to make me feel uncomfortable. So when that remark came up, it shocked me, but it wasn't like I felt like I needed to, make that situation worse.
That's an
Now,
interesting approach.
I admit, I have heard derogatory comments from, in the past from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, there's a tone. If we're talking and you disagree with what I'm saying, and it makes you angry, and then you spew that, then I know that, you don't really value me or my opinion. And so I must touch a nerve. And so the only way that you can react is to throw a negative comment out there. And
Hmm.
some people do that just to see how you're going to react. So
So you think she did it to see how you react?
I I really don't think so. I think it was just a slip of the tongue. And, you know, she came from a generation that I don't know. I don't know if she had ever, besides me, had any really conversation with black men or black women for that matter. I don't know if Calista brought anybody over to the family before me, so I'm sure she did. I don't know. Maybe I was the first, and
Hmm.
I don't know. So
Well, that's a good question. Have you?
I think Burma had met one boyfriend prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
Never, never having close interaction like that. That particular day, we were staying with her for the weekend so that we could be there to visit with her. And that's close. That's closeness that you don't share with someone when you're sitting in a restaurant eating. Um,
Okay.
and I I don't know personally about her interaction other outside of the people that I may have brought around her, but um, it was in it was in Southwest Iowa, so that area is not heavily populated, I would say, with anyone other than white. You know, so
Yeah.
my guess is that maybe she had not had a whole lot of interaction in her entire lifetime. But I don't know that positively.
Okay. So let's take it back a little bit. Let's go to the beginning of your relationship. I don't know who approached who first or who drew who to what. Tell me how this went down.
all right, I can take it. Uh,
Okay.
Calista and I both went to Cornerstone Family Church, and I was in. We had like a security team on the church, and I was doing security with her brother. And so we had a church picnic one day out into in the yard of our church. And Calista walked up to me and asked me if I could call her brother because Calista had her nieces and nephew, and she just wanted to let him know that, they were there. So, she walked up to me and she was like, can you call my brother and tell him that we're here? And I kind of like looked at her, like, who are you? You know? And she proceeded to tell me that, her brother Doug is on the team too. And I was like, Doug who? Doug Randolph. Oh, sorry. Sorry, bro, I used your last name, but uh, I called Doug and I was like, hey, your sister is here with your kids and she wants you to come out. Oh, okay. He said, I'll be right down. So he came down and they got together and did what they were doing and stuff. And I think it was about maybe 2 or 3 days later, I saw Doug again and I was like, hey, you didn't tell me you had a sister. Oh yeah, and I was like, wow, maybe you ought to introduce me to her. And he was like, sure, I will. I will. And a week went past, 10 days went past, nothing. So I was like, Doug, did you tell her? And he's like, oh, yeah, I told her and stuff. But Calista had a point at that time, because I'm kind of short, so I'm about 5'6", and at that time I guess she had a preference for taller guys and stuff, and so I think I came in a little bit under, the requirement for that date. So
Came in under the mark.
yeah, so.
Okay.
But then, after that, we proceeded to kind of talk. And I have to put an emphasis on the way we met. I was at a point in my life that I was tired of dating, because every time I would get in a relationship, it was mainly about lust. And, we know, or I know from the beginning, that that's not going to last. Once the infatuation is over, then if you don't have anything else, other than that, then it's going to fizzle out. But when I met Calista, I had already turned my will about relationships over to God. And so when we met, there wasn't anything that I wanted to do that wasn't going to be about God. And so I prayed about it, and I just turned it over to him, because I didn't know how to have a healthy relationship. And so I wanted, at that point, I was like, well, if I can't have not the perfect relationship, but if I can have a relationship of God, then I would rather just be by myself. Because I had to learn to love myself, and I realized that no person that I was with could give me the love that I already had. But I can take the love that God had in me and share it with somebody else, and we can be, on a different plane than I ever was before.
That's amazing. So here's what I want to know, Calista.
Yeah.
What changed your mind? He didn't meet the requirements. What happened?
Well, my brother kept mentioning him to me, and I said, please quit talking to me about this guy. He's too short. I don't want to date him. I don't want to date him. And now I was just thinking, it's ironic that to me it was about something physical about him, but it was too short. It had nothing to do with this color. So yeah, I kept saying, stop talking to this guy. My brother, he was insistent. Really, he's such a nice guy. You should go out with him. Just go once. Finally, I'm like, okay, fine. And Jeff and I started talking on the phone a little bit, and we went out a couple of times. And the more I talked to him on the phone, the more his wonderful personality came through. And at that point too, I had been praying to God, God, make me the woman that I need to be for the person that you have for me. Change me, mold me into the person that I need to be, so I can be at the right time in the right place for the person that you have for me. So, I think the important thing is that both of us were praying to God that, that he do a work in us, and not just, hey, bring me a person. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's what changed my mind, is finally just his winning personality. He just kept on and kept on. So,
Well, we got a question.
uh-huh.
Was for Jeff, your previous relationships also interracial?
Um, mm, well, I've had other relationships with um, white women, but I was married once before, and that was only for like 4 months, and that was to a African American woman. So, but I was young, and she wasn't a good girl, and my family really didn't really like her, and they knew of her, and so it was telling me that they didn't think that that I should mess around with her. But like I said, I was kind of young, and once they had a negative tone about it, it just almost made me want it more. So, but in the end, they knew best. So they knew
Hmm.
best.
Funny, I just learned something new about my husband. I knew he had been married before, but it never even crossed my mind to ask him what color she was. You know, it's not important. I mean, it's just not important.
I think
Interesting.
I told you.
I know me, I ask all questions about everything, important or not. I don't know what it is about me. My husband calls me the FBI. I ask
Hmm,
everything.
hmm,
Every little detail about your past and your current and what you think your future will be. Um,
hmm.
so, so let me ask you, in regards to your upbringing, yes, you clearly are two different colors. You clearly, have two different nationalities. No. Uh, so you guys are hilarious. So let me ask you, in your upbringing, your families will start you off, Jeff. Did anybody in your family discourage you or try to discourage you from dating outside of your race?
No, I grew up. My mom, my mom is from Iowa, and my dad is from Texas, and they married. They both graduated Drake here in Iowa, and then they moved east because my dad was in the army. So me growing up in DC was, at that time DC was known as the Chocolate City, So, but growing up, my mom sent me to a Catholic school, so I went to a Catholic school from second to 12th. And in the Catholic school, there were all different nationality and races of people. So it wasn't, you know, racism. I don't ever remember having an episode where the people clashed for whatever reason. Strangely
Hmm.
enough, so, but, well, when I was in DC, it was just me and my mom when my dad died. But my dad had took me down to Texas to meet his side of the family because I used to come out here to Iowa every summer because I didn't have any choice. My mom would send me out here so I can stay with my family, and me and my cousins we'd have a ball. One of my cousins in particular, he's a year younger than me, and we used to fight like cats and dogs and stuff. And you know, me and Kevin, we'd fight 1 hour, and then the next hour we're buddy buddy playing at the park and stuff. So,
Hmm.
even then, when I came out here, I didn't really. My family was never. I never heard my family say anything bad about the opposite race. Now they may have, and I just didn't hear it. But my family just, I don't know. I just didn't hear it. I was talking with you yesterday, Asia. My first encounter with derogatory term was when I was in Texas and I was visiting my cousin. I have a half brother, and he was the first person that I heard use a negative comment towards the opposite race. So,
Okay.
up to that point, you know, either I was naive or had tunnel vision. It just wasn't in the forefront as far as, people saying things about, other people. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm sure it was there. I mean, I lived in a part of town in DC. It wasn't the ghetto, but 3 blocks from the ghetto. So, I'm sure, that I'm sure I heard it, but it didn't affect me or make me want to follow suit in that aspect.
Okay. So I mean, sometimes people are not like direct with their comments. They may not say anything negative specifically or try to say anything negative about the opposite race. But has anyone said anything to you like, you know, indicating that maybe it's not a good idea for you to date outside of your race? Or maybe you shouldn't um, talk to a white female?
Yes, we had this conversation yesterday. My grandmother on my dad's side, my dad's mom, I was staying in Texas, and I lived with her for a while, then I lived with my brother for a while, but then I was living out on my own, and I would always go over to my grandma's house because she always had the good food. You know, every Sunday you had to be there anyway, and she had all kind of, you know, I miss those days where your family would always get together on Sunday after church and have this huge dinner and stuff. But
Mhm.
anyway, my I went to shower over my grandmother's house because I went swimming, and I knew that I had this date coming. This white lady, a white girl, she was gonna come pick me up. We was gonna go to the movies. So
Mhm.
after I showered and stuff, I came out on the porch with my grandma, and she was sitting out there eating watermelon, her favorite fruit. And my friend had drove up, and she picked me up, and we went on our way, and we got back. You know, as soon as I got back to my grandma's house, my grandma said to me, Jeff, you know, I don't care what you do, just don't, you know, marry a white woman and then don't even bring her to my house. And I was
Hmm.
like shocked, you know, because my grandma was real religious, and you know, she said that with a straight face, and you know, I was kind of hurt by it. You know, I have a cousin, and she, you know, she's married to a white guy. And at my grandma's funeral, we were discussing it. I don't know how it came up, but I told my cousin, I was like, you know, grandma told me that, you know, that one, if I get married, that she would hope it wasn't to a white woman, and if it was, that you know, not to bring her to the house. And my cousin was like, "No, no, grandma, she was just joking with you, because she knew David, and you know, she liked David and stuff." And I was like, "Well, I don't know if it's a double standard that you know, because you're a black woman and he's a white guy, that might be a little bit more." I don't know, acceptable, but it's totally different than what it was for a black man to bring a white woman to the house. So, and I
Hmm.
get it, you know, at that era, there was all kinds of, you know, injustice. You know, I was thinking about it recently, you know, in that era, you know, they had the Emmett Till situation. You know, there was other, you know, things that happened to black guys for either whistling at a white woman or saying something to a white woman, following a white woman, and, you know, a bunch of black guys, you know, lost their lives. So I don't know if she was trying to protect me or, you know, I don't know. I never asked her about it. So maybe when I get to heaven, I can ask her about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So what? I mean, but so you think she was being protective of you?
In my heart, because I love my grandma and she was a very giving woman, that's the only answer that I have been able to come up with.
That makes sense. I guess I can
So,
understand that, because of the image that you have in your head of who she was. That's what makes sense.
yeah.
So, Callista, there's a question for you.
Yeah.
Says, how do you deal with friends that are racist towards your marriage? Do you
Um,
have any?
no.
So you're like, I don't deal with it.
Right. I really don't. I mean, people, the people that um, I feel like make inappropriate comments, I really do try to deal with those inappropriate comments. Um, now, if we're talking about family, that's a little bit different story because we do run into some bumps in the road occasionally. Um, for instance, here recently with this stuff going on, my husband and brother knew each other before we even knew one another, and he was really close to my brother. And my brother, when this George Floyd stuff happened, my brother made a post of the Confederate flag, and he said, learn your history. The Confederate flag isn't synonymous with racism. It wasn't created for that. And I immediately had to pipe back up and say, okay, when it was stitched together, it may not have meant a racist thing. It may not have meant to be a racist thing. But unfortunately, because it was in the South, because they flew the flag and were fighting for slavery, it became known as a very harmful thing. And for you to say that, it shows that that you have a lack of empathy, or you don't understand people. This is about how people perceive things. It's not about what it was meant to be when it was stitched together. And I had to address that right away, because I couldn't let that go. And
Yeah.
so that things like that do come up occasionally, where people who, like my family they're always going to be in my life, but I'm going to address things that are offensive that they may not even be aware of. So,
Hmm.
um, and it's unfortunate, because it just means that they're not paying attention to what's going on in the world today, or in the moments. They're not tuning in to how people really feel.
Yeah. It in some situations it's ignorance, and in other situations just flat out racism.
Right.
Um, I gotta say, going through what you guys, you know, occasionally or whatever go through, and having to explain stuff or speak up for things sounds a little exhausting. So, has it brought you closer together, or has it ever caused arguments? How are you dealing with those things?
Nope. I feel like it's brought us. I feel like it's brought us closer together because you know the issue is with them. It's not with us. It isn't. You know, we can address it together, but
Mhm.
it's not going to define us. So, I mean, when the issues come up, I mean, I love her dearly. And I told Calista a couple days ago, it was like, since we've been together outside of social issues, cultural issues, we have never had an argument amongst ourselves because of race. I
That's
mean, we
good.
just haven't. I mean, we might disagree about something that's in the world but I love her for who she is. And again, I think that's the foundation that God brought me somebody that I would be able to deal with life on life's terms, but just because the color of our skin isn't the defining reason. I mean,
I hear.
it's like, she's my best friend. I don't, just because her color of her skin isn't, you know, that's not the issue. It's the issue for others, but it's not our issues. So if
Right.
I can have someone that looks at me and I treat them as a whole, you know, how wonderful it would be if white and black people had a foundation as we do, because we don't see the color of our skin, we see each other's heart. And that's only
Yeah.
because of God. So
Yeah.
I
There's so
agree.
many other things in a relationship to break you down in a relationship and tear you apart, other than the color of somebody's skin. I mean, that's a non-issue for us. There are so many other things that try to tear you apart. Um, you don't need to add that to the list. So,
Amen.
it's we all have all unconscious beliefs that we didn't choose to have because of how we grew up. That could be from, you know, personal interactions that you had that were not good. A lot of people think that they know history because they read or they took history in school and they know American history books. But
We're
we
having
know,
trouble hearing you a little bit. If you could
oh,
just lean in towards the middle a little bit. Mhm.
yeah. So, people think sometimes that they know history because they they took history in school. And I would like to think that most Black people know that that is not all that history that there is. But
Mhm.
I think that white people think that what's written is true. And so I think there's some educating to do on the part of a lot of people to get to know or understand and empathize as to why systemic racism is a problem and that it truly does exist.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Do you guys have any children?
Yes, we adopted a son uh, about 6 years ago.
So, in raising this child of yours, do you guys address the cultural backgrounds between the both of you? Have you addressed slavery? Have you addressed the dynamics between the cultural differences that you guys have?
Well, he's 6 right now, and so he's coming into his own. We haven't just sat down and talked about it. Although Calista had a interaction with him that it was after one of the riots or issues that had arose, and he was wondering why is it that you know this white guy had this black guy pinned down, and I believe, well, you can tell a story of.
well, they were having a gathering to have a march, and there was all kinds of people, and it happened to be done somewhere in Georgia.
Lean in towards the middle, Melissa. I know
So
you can't hear.
we were going past a gathering for a march that people were doing, and he said, "What are all these people doing here?" And I said, "These people are angry because there was a man that was killed by a police officer, and they're angry about it." And I said, "The man was black like daddy is, and the police officer was white like mommy is." And he put
Can
his
you
knee on
kind of
his
just lean
neck.
towards your husband?
Okay. So he put his knee on his neck,
There we
and
go.
he was very upset. Um, and the guy couldn't breathe, and he ended up dying. And he said, "He killed that man, mommy." And I said, "Yes, he did, Jaden." And he goes, "He should go to jail."
Mhm.
And I said, "Jaden, can hardly talk about it." I said, "Jaden, sometimes people don't like others because of the color of their skin. And unfortunately, things like that happen. And yes, you're right." And then he said, "That police officer is a murderer, Mom." I said, "Yes, he is, Jaden."
Mhm.
But it's awful that we have to talk to our kids about that because, for him, this is normal. Mommy's white, daddy's black. I mean, it's just normal. He doesn't realize that other people are different, other family structures. And it was really hard to have to explain that to him, that some people don't like others because of the color of their skin.
Yeah.
No, it's an issue. It's not an issue. It's something that we're going to have to sit down with him and explain, because I want him to hear it from us about our relationship and our racial relationship.
Mhm.
I went to pick Jay up from he was in a preschool, and there was a young black kid. He was probably like 10 or so. It was a daycare nursery, and he saw me and he knew Jay, and immediately he was like, "Well, how are you his daddy?" And I'm like, "I'm just him." And so, Jay was still too young to understand what that is, but when the kid said it to me, you know, first I got kind of irritated and hurt at the same time, is because people just you just can't be. It isn't, I love this little boy, and he's going to be able to. We're going to be able to teach him both sides of history. So hopefully, in turn, he will be able to identify that not all white people are good, not all white people are bad, not all black people are good, not all black people are bad, or even Mexicans or whatever. We're all There's good and bad in everybody, but you have to know the history in order to make an informed decision. And so hopefully we will be able to show him the love that we have for each other despite the color of our skin. And if we can exist and he can be upright in that, then hopefully he might be somebody that can grow up and change the world, because he will know the goodness in both and not just the bad in one.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful thing. I had posted this because this individual wants this to be addressed. I feel like you already addressed it, but they're asking, going back to the grandma, do you think her comment wasn't so much color, but seeing you as family, just a loving comment from her heart, that she didn't see color either? Is that how you felt?
I did, because, when me and Calista, uh, a week before our wedding, they came down. Grandma and dad, Calista's dad, came down, from there in Southwest Iowa, and uh, me and Doug and dad and grandma was staying out my brother-in-law's house out in Winterset, and no, we were staying here in our house here. But what had happened the day before me and Calista was supposed to get married, I got some 24-hour flu bug. I was sick as all out. I got diarrhea. I'm vomiting. I'm laying in bed. I could hardly move.
Hope
I
nobody
crawled
eating
to the bathroom. Huh?
it. I said, I hope
Oh,
nobody's
I
eating
crawled.
it.
Yeah. Sorry, people. You can text me and sorry. But anyway, I had made my way to the bathroom, and Callista's grandma, she saw me, vomiting in the toilet and stuff, and I'm on the knees and I'm praying to the porcelain god and stuff. And Callista's grandma said, "I don't know what you got. I don't even care to know, but you're getting married tomorrow." The way she said it, I mean, in a straight face, I don't know. I love that lady. So, the comment at that point, because I knew her prior to her making that comment, and I knew it wasn't from a place of hate. It was just you know, a, a bad, a bad comment it wasn't even a bad time for me. It was just an inappropriate comment. But to know somebody and to know their heart, even if they have a slip of the tongue, it wasn't something that I was going to, you know, I could have used it to ruin a relationship, but that wasn't who I felt she was. So, you know,
Hmm.
I just let it slide. So,
It's very mature of you.
Yes.
well, I mean,
So let me ask you, and I think I already know the answer, but this is for all the listeners. Was there ever a point in your relationship in recognizing the difference in your culture, your race, that you're like, you know what, you just don't understand? me, you don't understand my background, or you don't understand what I'm dealing with. Have you guys experienced that in your relationship?
I don't, I don't, I can't recall anything that, I think it's that we both respect our,
Lincoln Calista.
each other's cultures. Is this better?
Yeah.
I think it's because we both respect each other's cultures.
Mhm.
And I think I've done a good job of educating myself over the years about things that are really hurtful and insensitive. And I have tried to do a good job of being the kind of person that I should be to all people. Um, but specifically to my husband and to his background, and trying to make sure that when this George Floyd stuff came up, I said to him, honey, how are you feeling about this? I mean, I'm always asking him, how is this affecting you? What can I do to help if it's bothering him? I'm always trying to make sure that what things are going on, is that bothering you, and is it something that I should be more aware of? um and I think that in times that, because there are things that I have struggled with it within my own family, um like when my brother made that post and I came to him and I was furious, and he said, well, what can I do to help? What do I need to help you with? What? And I said, well, I have to address it. And he said, but Calista, don't be too mad. I don't think your brother really means harm. And I'm like, but it's insensitive and it's hurtful in the
Yeah.
moment. And so, it's kind of like the comment that has been made where, if somebody comes to you and tells you my mom passed away, and you say, all moms pass away. It's truthful, but it's hurtful and insensitive in the moment. If you come to somebody and say, and they come to you and say, my, you know, all or Black Lives Matter, and you say all lives matter. Well, that's truthful, but it's also hurtful and insensitive in the moment, and it's not taking into account that person's feelings. You know,
Okay.
I think we're
Well, let
both
me.
respect each other's opinions, and we love each other. First. Right.
Yeah.
So to answer Aaron's question, you know, there is a time for probing questions into your family. Me, I have a I I have when things happen and someone asks me something, I have to pause. Well, I just do pause before I, you know, decide to answer, because I feel that what God has instilled in me is a sense to be able to teach. I have a sense of that when a question is asked, I want that answer to become, I want God's words to run through me. I don't want it to be Jeff's, you know, whatever I'm feeling at that point, because I could become insensitive at that point. So, you know, those are questions. There are questions that need to be asked, but I feel like there's a time and a place for those questions. If you're doing it in the heat of the moment, even if someone asks a question and I deliver something in the heat of the moment, will it be received? As to if I, you know, if we have a question, a discussion a day or so afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem. If someone wants to ask me something, I would answer the question, because I feel like I have a sense that I can look at myself. There's a lot of people that can't look at themselves, and therefore, you know, they, they don't see, they can't empathize with what's going on. All they see is what's in front of them. Well, how are you going to change something if you can't, one, look at yourself, and then two, show empathy for whatever that person is, whatever color they are, male, female, black, white, Asian, whatever. We have to have empathy. God has shown us so much love, and Jesus died on the cross for us for our sins. Hopefully I can be used as a tool to maybe bring about change in someone's mindset about something that they are thinking, or at least give them a different perspective than where they are right now. But I don't think it will ever be received from anybody if it's done in a heated moment. Because in a heated moment, if I'm in a heated moment, I'm going to try to force my will and my thought on you because this is where I'm at. But if I'm, at a calmer, situation, I can just give you the fact. And if you don't receive it, then hopefully I planted the seed. I can't hit you over the head and bash your skull in because I say the sky is blue and you think it's red.
Okay. You have a very mature outlook on how to handle these things. And I want to address something earlier when I posted about the show and the title being that love is colorblind. Someone responded in saying that it shouldn't be colorblind because they want to deal with the biases and all those things are important to address. But I want to make a clear distinction. I didn't say that we are colorblind. I said love is colorblind. And I think that what you are showing everyone today is that it is. Love is not, something that respects the kind of person you are or your background or favors one nationality over the other. Love is love. True love is unconditional. It does not care about the color of your skin. It does not care about how old you are or your whatever. Love is love. And I think that it is important to educate people on what love really looks like, which is why I appreciate the love story that is being displayed in your relationship. Um,
You know,
and I appreciate you guys sharing your story with us. It's a beautiful story. And I am glad to hear that you are taking the time to educate your child along the way with everything that is going on as well. Um, and I feel like there probably needs to be a part two to this because there's some more questions that we don't have time to address. And I feel sad. So we're probably going to end up discussing more about this. Um, but I just want to tell you guys that I truly appreciate you coming on and being transparent and open about the things that you guys have addressed and that has been challenging along the way. And I encourage you guys to continue fighting the great fight. Did you guys have some closing statements, some closing comments?
just to add to your colorblind comment, that person is right. We as individuals should never be colorblind because if you try to ignore the fact that he is brown and I am white, then at some point you're not going to have the tools you need to deal with things that are going to come up, just like they've come up for us. So you do need to know or to understand that you as an individual can't be colorblind, but you are so right. Love can be colorblind. Love comes first. So.
Right. Did you have
We have,
something to say, Jeff?
we have to have love in order to change ourselves and change the world. Hate isn't going to do it. Hate will tear down. Love builds up. So if we can't have love, hopefully the love that we have, if any of our friends, anybody listening would like to discuss something, you know, we're at a place that we may not have the answer, but I have a different perspective than where you probably are. So that's what I feel like God had brought me here for, to not go the easy way, but to think of something different that's going to challenge you as I've been challenged. So, you know,
Amen
I
to
don't know.
that. And we will close on that. Thank you guys so much again for joining the show. This was
Sure.
Yes.
Yep.
And again, remember, you guys, you want to join the show. It is every Friday evening at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you want to be a part of the show or you have a topic that you want me to address, you can write me at Asia, ASIA, at asiajamal.com, ASIAJAMAL.com. And I personally will get the emails. So remember to appreciate God's perfect design, which is you. And until next time, have a great evening, and I'll see